Look, the president enjoys a good working relationship with Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu and stays in frequent communication with him. He was caught off guard by the bombing in Syria and also the bombing of a Catholic church in Gaza, which, as you know, I addressed at my briefing last week. And in both accounts, the president quickly called the prime minister to rectify those situations.
White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt there telling reporters yesterday that President Trump was caught off guard by Israel's strikes in Syria last week, as well as a strike on a Catholic church in Gaza. Israel has said the strike on the church was caused by stray ammunition, which hit the church by mistake, and that it's opened an investigation into the matter. Meanwhile, Israel is facing criticism after its troops fired on UN convoys who were trying to deliver aid on Sunday. Israel says it fired warning shots to deter threats as the trucks were headed towards areas controlled by Hamas. Critics on both sides blame each other here on their aid systems, while experts on aid distribution say that the real issue is Israel's failure to plan, leaving access in Gaza fractured and civilians caught in the crossfire. Joe, I mean, these pictures that are coming out of Gaza at the moment are just heartbreaking. And again, we're seeing pictures of civilians and children and families lining up to try and get food and then getting caught by Israeli fire.
Well, and Katty, the death, the violence against these children, against these civilians who are starving and trying to get food for their family. They go to relief sites and either bombs are dropped or they're shot. And of course, also, it seems so many supporters of Israel tried to put this down as propaganda from Hamas. But we've had the International Red Cross on twice talking about the numbers of civilians that are being slaughtered while they're going there and trying to get food relief in a region that's been on the precipice of famine now for a year. And you have UN convoys being attacked by Israel, trying to bring food in. It really is. It is a despicable, a deplorable, pick the word, situation that continues even a year after so many people in the Israeli military and Israeli intelligence services said there are no more military aims in Gaza that we can achieve. We need to move to the next phase. And Netanyahu just refuses to do it. Let's bring in right now contributing editor for the Financial Times, Kim Gatash. She is also a contributing writer at The Atlantic. Kim, much to talk to you about. I first want to talk about this story that I just don't think is being picked up enough in the U.S. press. The Times has done a great job over the past 2-3 days, putting it on the front page, talking about all of the Palestinians who have nothing to do with Hamas. All of these Palestinian children who are being slaughtered, their families, their grandparents being slaughtered as they try to get enough food to keep their family alive. Since Israel doesn't allow journalists in a lot of these areas, these relief areas, what can you tell us about what's happening on the ground there?
Joe, great to be with you on the show. I read a statement yesterday by the Journalist Society of the French news agency, Agence France Presse, and they were describing what their own journalists were going through in Gaza. They've been reporting on this war now for almost 2 years, and their colleagues in Paris and around the world can see them withering away, thinning away, because they don't have enough food. They have the money. They can get the money to them, but there isn't enough for them to buy. They're down to 1 meal a day, sometimes 1 meal every 2 days. And it's really quite a sight seeing some of these journalists also for Al Jazeera or others, because there are journalists in Gaza. They're just Palestinian journalists. And, you know, that has caused some to question their reporting, but they're there on the ground. They are doing an incredible job. They are the voice of Gaza at the moment. They are giving us all this reporting with their phones, with whatever means they have. And we're watching some of them become thinner and thinner on television. And that's really quite something. And those are people who have the possibility, who have connections to the outside, who have money. They just can't get the food. And the statement by Agence France Presse ends with this awful line, which says we've, since our founding in, I think, 1954, we've had many colleagues die in conflicts, by violence and accidents, but we've never seen our colleagues die from hunger. And that just sends a chill down your spine.
Yeah, Kim, what's the latest thinking in the region, and you spend so much time in Beirut, about what the Israeli government, what Prime Minister Netanyahu's plan is here? We see him stepping up. Today, I think for the first time in a long time, there are tanks back in Gaza again. We've seen the bombing of new civilian areas that hadn't been bombed until recently. You've written about this. What's the political game plan? Is there just still not one, or is it still just to prolong the war as long as possible?
I think there is no plan beyond prolonging the war, and I'm not the one saying it. We're watching it unfold. We're hearing it from American officials, from Israeli officials who oppose Mr. Netanyahu's, or former officials who oppose Mr. Netanyahu's lack of vision. You had a guest on television yesterday talk about strategic malpractice. There were so many military victories over the last year or so in Lebanon, in Gaza, in maybe in Yemen, not so sure. Iran to be debated, inconclusive. And Israel could have capitalized on those military victories to put forward a diplomatic vision for the region. But as the New York Times so brilliantly demonstrated in its last report last week, and you had Ronan Bergman on yesterday as well, Benjamin Netanyahu is simply trying to prolong the war until the next election to save his political career. And that has led a lot of people in the Middle East, including people in, officials in Gulf countries, feel like they are hostages now to Benjamin Netanyahu's political career. Very often Arab countries have been told, you're not doing enough to advance your own, reforms, progress, to improve your economies, and you should forget about the Palestinian cause. We'll deal with that when we can deal with it. Well, now the region is moving forward. Look at Saudi Arabia, incredible progress, despite, lack of political freedoms. In Syria, we got rid of Bashar al-Assad. There are problems ahead for sure. Lebanon, Hezbollah's decapitated, decimated. But we can't move forward, really, as a whole, as a region, with Israel, as long as this war continues in Gaza.